Alright boys, welcome to BBL. Before anything else, please bear with me in both this team builder and the match. I'm pretty sick and I probably sound pretty funny and I apologize, but please just bear with me through this and through any mindless plays I might make in the game. I don't have a great track record when I'm sick, so I hope today will be a little bit different. But welcome to BBL. Last week, if you missed it, check it out in the top right hand corner. We ended up beating Jason and moving on to 2-0. This week we're playing D-Ray. You can check out down in the description below alongside all of the other BBL coaches as we look to move to 3-0. And I'll be honest, I think D-Ray's 2-0, but at this point in the season I'm not really looking too hard at records because somebody who starts 0-2 can win 7 straight and still make playoffs. So at this point the records really don't matter. Before all that though, did you know only half the people that watch my videos are subscribed? If every single person watching this video right now subscribed, we would hit 3,000, which is my goal by the end of the year. So go down there, do me a favor, and check to see if you are subscribed right now. Damn, I can't breathe, guys. That being said, D-Ray's team, we got a cool matchup this week because it's Kyurem-Black versus Kyurem-White. I didn't mean to make the joke of cool like ice types, but here we are. D-Ray's team is going to be Kyurem-White, Deoxys Speed, Terra, Annihilate, Alolan Ninetales, Slowking, Cyclizar, Blaziken, because he made some transactions, Sandy Shocks, Thwackey, and Skuntank. So I do want to talk about D-Ray's transactions really quickly, and I don't know how long this team builder is going to be, or the battle, to be honest. I'm pretty out of it. So the transactions D-Ray made where he dropped Talonflame, Orthworm, and something else for Blaziken and something else. I think Thwackey, I don't really know what he dropped. Blaziken does pretty good into us, but dropping Orthworm pre our matchup really opens up Kyurem-Black. As you can see, I'm going to talk about it in a second, but Kyurem-Black does crazy, and him not having Orthworm pretty much made it to where we do not have any reason to have Earth Power on our Pokemon, which there's upsides and downsides to that. He can now run Terra Steel on his Annihilate pretty freely, and shouldn't really have worry of Earth Power, but at the same time, if he does decide to run a different Terra on that Pokemon, Earth Power is pretty useless, right? So by making those transactions, Blaziken does well, but we now are not forced to run Earth Power on Kyurem, which is pretty sick. So as far as our team and what does good and what doesn't do good, first of all, shout out Wagon Fruit. You guys loved me saying that last time. I probably said it 1,000 times. I'm a lot less confident in this team, I'm going to be completely honest, just because of the nature of this matchup is insanely offensive. D-Ray's team matches up very poor into ours defensively, but offensively it can get out of hand pretty quickly. So we're going to build a team that I'm not necessarily super comfortable with because it's a very turn 1 immediate offense team. We don't really have a lot to fall back on, and it worked at mocks. I won most of my mocks, but it's not a playstyle I'm super comfortable with, so we'll just have to see how it ends up working. So as far as our team goes, Ho-Oh does actually pretty poorly here. I think I said that last week. Outside of the one great set that we found, we didn't find that set this week, unfortunately. I'm going to be talking about in a little bit about our poor Ho-Oh set that doesn't really do good. Unfortunately, Ho-Oh just, it gets outsped by everything, and everything on D-Ray's team has rock coverage. Kyurem-White has Stone Edge and Ancient Power. Deoxys has Rock Slide and Meteor Beam. Annihilate has Stone Edge. We do wall the Alolan Ninetales, I guess, and we can eat hits from the Slowking, but it gets Power Gym. Cyclizar, I actually don't know if it gets a rock move or not. Blaze, like, you get the idea. Power Gym on Sandy Shocks. Like, most of his Pokemon have rock coverage and were slower than a good majority of his Pokemon. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Pokemon. Actually, 7 if you count Blaziken with Speed Boost. So Ho-Oh, unfortunately, is just simply not that great here. Defensively. Offensively, it is pretty good because his fire resists are very far and few between. In Slowking, obviously, the fire resist does not love taking Brave Birds. So, I mean, there's negatives, there's positives to Ho-Oh. It just doesn't do good defensively here. Next up is Kyurem-Black. Welcome back to another week where Kyurem-Black's going to try to get 6 kills. Kyurem-Black does fantastic here, it always does, and like I said, him not having Orthworm makes it to where we don't even have to consider Earth Power. We can if we want to cover the Terra Annihilate, but we don't necessarily have to. Really, there's 5 moves here on Kyurem every single time that we need to consider. Dragon Dance, Scale Shot, Icicle Spear, Fusion Bolt, and Iron Head. Those are the 5 moves that we need to consider. We basically just have to cut one of those moves. Every Kyurem set's pretty much going to have those. There's also the ability to be special this week though, or mixed more so, like Dragon Dance, Fusion Bolt, Icicle Spear, and Draco does very, very well here because we're not spamming Dragon move too often. It's mostly Ice move. But either way, loaded dice is going to be pretty beneficial. We could also be Boots, we could also be Lum. There's a couple of options. Gholdengo does pretty well here. Obviously, it's going to do well into a snow team. Helps with Deoxys, helps with Kyurem, helps with Alolan Ninetales. Its speed, much like our Ho-Oh, is a little bit lackluster here, but overall, it can take a hit and probably take something out in this matchup. Iron Boulder is probably our best Pokemon. It's either that or Kyurem-Black. It's like a toss-up. Depends on how you look at the matchup. But I'll be honest, there's a lot of situations where we can get a Swords Dance Booster Energy up, which is going to be the set that we are. Spoiler alert. Just looking at the composition of the team, because of Blaziken protecting and Mighty Cleave going through Protect, there's a lot of ability for us to get a Swords Dance up and just win the game with Boulder. Grimmsnarl does okay, screens do fine. It helps us with things like the Blaziken in the late game, the Kyurem in the late game. Toedscruel does good. Beats his Spiker Rocker in Andy Shocks. Obviously, he does have the Annihilate to block the spin, but we can force out a potential Terra eventually. G-Weezing, much like Grimmsnarl, does good because he doesn't have very many barrier resist and the potential Annihilate. We actually do beat pretty well. We get Willow, we get Haze, Flamethrower, Fire Blast, things like that. So Weezing does very good in this matchup. Azelf was solely considered because rocks do very well into our opponent and has a stack in general, because Cyclizar, I'll talk about in a second, it's not going to come. U-turn knockoff lead was something that I really considered for a long time, and Swampert I never considered once. I'll be honest, like, it's there, it's helpful versus the Blaziken, but we have other ways to deal with the Blaziken because it's just so weak compared to the other Pokemon. Compared to our Pokemon, it's just so weak and doesn't do enough damage without being able to set up, and it doesn't really have the opportunity to set up. It might not even have the move slots to be able to set up. So Swampert wasn't really on my radar, and Groudle. As far as D-Ray's team, it's not very good defensively, like I just said, like I just went over it, but it is very good offensively. Kyurem White, we don't really have great counterplay for. It's like a Spadef Gholdengo, but even then Fusion Flare absolutely nukes us. The sets I'm expecting are either Choice Specs or Weakness Policy Dragon Dance. He could be some sort of a mixed variant with Dragon Dance, Stone Edge, Draco or Dragon Pulse, and then Freeze Dry or Ice Beam is kind of what I'm expecting, but he obviously would really like to fit Fusion Flare on that set, so it'll be interesting to see how he moves forward with that set. He doesn't necessarily need Dragon Stab, I suppose, so he could go without that. But Deoxys Speed is another Pokemon that I avidly hate on. I think it's extremely overrated, and taking it as an Uber is crazy, but it does do pretty well into this matchup. The Deoxys I'm really expecting is going to be a leads hazard set because he does block our removal very easily with the Annihilate, obviously Defiant for the Defog on Weezing, and then obviously Ghost type for the Rapid Spin on Toedscruel. So I do expect like a lead sash hazards with like Superpower Psycho Boost, something like along the lines of that. But the set I'm horrified of, the set that Wagon Fruit made me completely scared of, is going to be Life Orb, Adamant, Offensive, with 4 attacks, E-Speed, Zen Headbutt, or Psycho Boost. It could be either or because it's Life Orb. It could be mixed. Superpower, and then I don't remember what the last move was. Rock Slide? Rock Slide? I think it was Rock Slide. That set's horrifying, and it really does have sturdy. Even if it leads, I don't think it would lead in that case. If it leads, I'm pretty confident we can say that it's going to be Sash Hazards. But if it doesn't lead and it's in the back, I'm horrified of that particular set. It really smokes us, and we have to play very well to not get into a position to lose to that Pokemon. Terra Annihilate is another Pokemon that does us really dirty. There's only 2 types I really expect here. It's going to be Steel, it's going to be Water. I don't really see the use case for very many other types, and I think that's a good thing. I think that speaks volumes about our team, because our team, I think all 3 weeks I've expected Steel or Water, or like I expect Terra Steel. It gives him a lot of usability. Once we get that Terra Steel out though, he does have a lot more weaknesses that we can take advantage of with the team that we are bringing. I do just simply expect Bulk Up, Rage Fist, Drain Punch, last slot Stone Edge. Last slot could be Rest with Chesto. That's also an option, but I think Stone Edge is far more likely. Alolan Ninetales, it might not come, to be honest. It does very bad, but just setting the snow for Kyurem is very valuable, but it also sets up... Setting the snow for Kyurem is very valuable, but it also sets our snow. He might want to match our screens, go Aurora Veil, but he's always going to have 4 move slot syndrome, like Aurora Veil, Baton Pass he wants, like he wants Encore, he wants dual stabs, like... I guess that's kind of like Blizzard, Freeze Dry, and Moonblast, so there's kind of 6 moves that he wants to slot on there, so it's a little tough there. Slowking, I'm not confident comes, but if it does come, it's going to be Fizz Dep, it's going to be like Foul Play, Slack Off, Chilly Reception, last move, could be Thunder Wave last slot, could be like Power Gym, could be Surf. It could be a little bit problematic for us, but we do take advantage of it with things like the Gholdengo, so it'll be kind of interesting to see how he wants to navigate that, because it does very blatantly help with the Kyurem-Black, at the same time Ho-Oh, but it also makes him suck up a lot of momentum. Like, we can take advantage of Slowking very easily with a lot of our Pokemon, so I don't know, it's going to be interesting to see if he brings it. Cyclizar, I don't see the use case for. I really don't. I think Cyclizar is bad here. We have Gholdengo that hardwalls it forever. If he is scared of Hazard Stack, which he should be, I very much contemplated hard Hazard Stack here. I just think he's going to run a lot of Boots. I think he's going to be Boots Kyurem. I think he's going to be Boots Ninetales. I don't think Cyclizar does it well at all here. G-Weezing, Gholdengo, Kyurem-Black that can take a hit and KO it back. It's not very strong. Ho-Oh, like, it's just, Cyclizar sucks here, I'll be honest. Blaziken is a big threat. It just depends. I think he might not value Blaziken that much. It does well, but it doesn't ever get the opportunity to set up. It wants Protect, it wants Swords Dance because it doesn't hit very hard, it wants Fire move, Fighting move, and it wants Rock move. So it's gonna have a hard time choosing between those 5 moves, and even then it kind of wants to be special on the Rock move and things like that. It could be mixed, it could be like, I don't know. Blaziken does, do not get me wrong, Blaziken is scary as a potential in-game in this matchup, but he might not value that, and I respect that if he doesn't value it, because I think given the specific team we're bringing, obviously he doesn't know what we're bringing, but like screens, hyper offense like we are bringing, that I'll talk about in a minute, it's very hard for Blaziken to ever really get going. Anti-Shocks I do expect. I think that it's either this, the Ninetales, or the Dio Speed as the lead. The only thing with Anti-Shocks is that Toedscruel walls it forever. So if he does end up bringing that Pokemon, we have Toedscruel to wall him forever. So I'm not super worried about that Pokemon. Thwackey, would you bring Thwackey into Ho-Oh Kyurem-Black? I don't think so. And then Skuntank actually does extremely well into my team. I don't know if D-Ray is going to see it, but specifically T-Spikes are very hard for my team to deal with. Obviously, on matchup, you might not think that because we have Ho-Oh, potential Boots, Kyurem-Black, and Gholdengo with 2 ways to remove hazards, but but if he plays hard into my Annihilape is going to prevent you from spinning forever and prevent you from defogging forever, then he could very easily bring T-Spikes, and honestly, that would destroy the team that we are bringing. It shredded my first couple builds. I built a couple themes, by the way, but Skuntank definitely poses some problems. So the 6 I think he's going to end up bringing is going to be Kyurem-White, Dio Speed, Annihilape, Alolan Ninetales, Anti-Shocks, and then like Skuntank, Blaziken, or Slowking in that last slot. He could also swap out Alolan Ninetales for one of those 3. I just don't ever see Cyclizar and Thwackey. I don't see the benefit of having them in this matchup. As for the team that we're bringing, like I said, shout out Whack Fruit again. I say 1,000 times every battle. For helping me with this team a lot. We went really in depth, and like I said, I'm not nearly as comfortable with this team as I was last week. I am consistently winning the mocks, but like last week felt like one of the strongest teams I've ever built. This week it feels like one thing could go wrong and I could lose, and that's just the nature of the matchup being so offensive. That's just how it is. I have to play very well with a hyper offensive team, and if I do, I will win, but it's just a little uncomfortable. I'm just talking, I'm just saying words now. Let's move on to the first Pokemon. We got Ho-Oh. As per usual, we're Scarf. I don't know, man. Ho-Oh does pretty bad here, but Scarf allows us to be able to guarantee Revenge, a bulked up Annihilape, because I do expect him to be Terra Steel. We can just Flare Blitz, we can Sacred Fire, we can take that Pokemon out. Even at +1, we need very minimal chip, which we can get very easily on that Pokemon. And then once we get that, we're able to Revenge it super easily. Like I said, we do have to be wary of Rock Slide on that Pokemon, but obviously Scarf has some other uses. I think we can outspeed Adamant Dio Speed. We can outspeed like a Dio Speed creeping something. I think we outspeed Blaziken with this speed stat, to be honest. So we probably aren't going to be outspeeding Dio Speed, and we do have to watch out for either Meteor Beam or the Rock Slide there. And we're Earthquake last slot, just because we needed a 4th move, and I don't really expect to ever click it, but there's like weird scenarios where maybe Annihilate's Terra Steel and there's a Pokemon in the back that resists fire like Slowking. We can lock Earthquake, we can potentially win. I don't know. Ho-Oh is not super crucial here, but I mean, it is pretty nice to revenge certain things like unsuspecting Blaziken, and specifically that Annihilate. Our next Pokemon is Kyurem-Black. It is going to be our lead here. I'm a little nervous about this lead because specifically Deoxys Speed puts us in a really tough bind immediately. If it's led, we have to really contemplate what set he's going to be, but we're Dragon Dance, we're Icicle Spirit, we're Scale Shot, and we're Iron Head. We are very severely missing Fusion Bolt on this set. If he is a Terra Steel Annihilape, obviously he walls us, and we really don't want to see that led. So we're loaded dice here because Icicle Spirit and Scale Shot are very free. If he is lead Deoxys, he might just turn 1 knockoff, which would be fine. Not ideal, but manageable. And basically, we do expect him to be adamant or modest on his Deoxys here, so after a Scale Shot, we have enough speed to outspeed him turn 1. If he leads Ninetales, it gets a little bit dicey because he could be Aurora Encore, which is a little hard for us to deal with, but essentially turn 1, we're going to Dragon Dance if we see the Ninetales, same thing if we see the Anti-Shocks. This set does very well off lead and can really put D-Ray on the back foot immediately. I do not think there's any situation where this wins off lead, but we can definitely do some big damage and keep him in the back for later in the game. Like I said, we're max speed tied to Kyurem-Black. Sorry, Kyurem-White, we're Kyurem-Black. We have enough Spadef to live a modest Meteor Beam from that Deoxys Speed, so we can live pretty much anything turn 1 from that Deoxys Speed rest into attack. This Pokemon's crucial, and we really need him to push a hole in early. The next Pokemon is going to be our Wincon. We're going to have Big Shoulder Day, finally making hopefully something happen here. Parrot week 1, only got a quick attack off in week 2. We're Big Boulder Shoulder. Swords Dance, Mighty Cleave, Tera Blast, and Mega Horn. Between Mighty Cleave and Tera Blast, we actually hit everything on his team very, very well. So Mega Horn is strictly here because it OHKOs the Slowking at +2. There's not really another better last slot. We really debated the sub, but ultimately getting the sub up was a lot less impactful than getting the Mega Horn off and OHKOing that potential max Fizdef Slowking. So we went for Mega Horn in that last slot. We're Tera Water here because, first of all, offensively, Water does fantastic into D-Ray. All of the rock resists do not like Water except for, no, all of them. All of them do not like Water. But the main defensive draw here with Water is that his Kyurem, I do think Specs is the most likely item. Gets locked into a move pretty easily as far as like Ice Beam or Fusion Flare, and then we're able to switch into it and get a free Sword Stance up. And at any point in the game, if this Pokemon gets to +2 with the booster speed, it's very hard for D-Ray to come back from it. We have to manage the Annihilate. We have to get a little bit of chip on that, but past that, it's really hard for D-Ray to ever deal with this Pokemon. So this is going to be our primary Wincon. We have enough speed to outspeed the Alola Ninetales, max attack, the rock-friendly number of HP. It's a very simple set, but getting to the point where this wins can be pretty simple. Next up, we've got Mr. Feast. These last 3 Pokemon, I'm going to be honest, the first 3 were always there. There were never any builds where those first 3 Pokemon were not there. The next 3 Pokemon changed from everything except Swampert and Corrado. So we have Gholdengo next. We're going to be Aqua Barrier to help with not only Blaziken, but also Fusion Flare on the Kyurem-White. We're the same set as last week as far as Recover, Nasty Plot, Make It Rain, and Shadow Ball. He doesn't have good resist to dual stabs. Recover lets us stay healthy, and Plot could put us in a position to do some massive damage late in the game. We can outspeed the Annihilate, creeping our 24 speed Toedscruel, leave 2 Specs, Kyurem-White, Modest, Ice Beams, then we put the rest in a special attack Modest. This Pokemon, honestly, on paper, I don't think he does that good, but in practice, in the mocks, he saved me a lot. So I am bringing Mr. Feast over something like, I mean, I don't want to spoil it, I guess, but we're bringing Mr. Feast over some very crucial Pokemon that I think also do well, because Mr. Feast has the potential to do well. Let's go. Our next Pokemon, the MVP of the team, or Big Bloopy, coming back. We've brought him to 2 out of 3 weeks. You guys stay hating. We're Spikes, Rapid Spin, Knockoff, and Earth Power. Spikes are very free. We switch this into Andy Shocks, and if he is non-Tera Annihilate, we can get our Spikes up because D-Ray's hazards are very, very bad, and it lets us get some chip on things like Deoxys and Kyurem-White that may not be boots, and it puts us in a very good position that way. We can Rapid Spin once the Annihilate's Tera is gone, which is pretty crucial. Knockoff to remove items on things like the Annihilate that want to switch in, and then Earth Power for specifically damage on that Tera Steel Annihilate, as well as a potential Kyurem-White that may want to switch in. We didn't want to be mono grass move in that last slot. So we're Rocky Helmet, and we were Heavy Duty Boots for most of the build, but Rocky Helmet allows us to get that chip on the Annihilate that we need, and that 16% on Annihilate is very crucial because that puts it in range of Flare Blitz from Ho-Oh when he is at +1 if he's Tera Steel. So it's a hyper-specific situation that actually does seem like it's going to come into play more times than not. Boots were also really nice because it helped us if he did bring that Skuntank, but I value fearing the Annihilate more than fearing the Skuntank, if that makes sense, so that is why we are what we are. We can outspeed the Kyurem-White because Earth Power actually does a very good chunk to that Kyurem-White, about 33%. So there's a world where after Spikes, he is in a position to die to 2 Earth Power. So that would be really nice to kill that on switching. We have enough HP. We can live 3 booster special attack Tera Blast from the Sandy Shocks, which is the best move that he can hit us with, or 2 crits, and then with the rest in a special attack. Bloopy's very important, and I expect Bloopy to do well. And then lastly, we're bringing Rinky Dinky again. I'm not convinced that this is the right call. It was between this or Wizengaller for a majority of the build, but Grimmsnarl helps with like Kyurem-White as well as like an in-game Blaziken and a potential Deoxys speed that could get out of hand, whereas Wizengaller was specifically for the Annihilate. So I preferred covering 3 things in one rather than 1 thing in one. I think we can deal with Annihilate with specifically that Scarf Ho-Oh, but if he is a different Tera type than Steel, it could get a little bit dicey. So I'm a little worried about that maybe we're not making the right call, but screens in general helps our team significantly. Reflect Light Screen, very hard for D-Ray to deal with. Thunder Wave for things like the Kyurem-White as well as the Deoxys speed. And then Foul Play is going to be our best hitting move into most things, Deoxys, Kyurem-White, kinda, because it does still have a reliable attack stat. And I don't know, we're just max with that to help with the Kyurem-White. And that's going to be the team, guys. Like I said, not the best team that we've ever built, but I do think it can get the job done. We have to overrun D-Ray with offense before he can overrun us, and that's all going to start turn 1 with our lead, Kyurem-Black. Again, I apologize for how I sound, for being sick and being under the weather. I really hope that does not take away from the entertainment value of the match that you will hopefully tune into tomorrow. With all that being said, guys, I really hope you enjoyed this team, and hopefully I can pilot it for us to go 3-0. Thank you guys so much for watching. But for now, guys, this has been John Jr.